Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. You know, I'm really enjoying myself on the corner. We hang here, making our way now through September. I'm looking forward to the change of the season. I get a chance to use my favorite word, autumnal. No one uses that word but me. So we hope you'll, bring a sweater if it starts to get cool during September, and we can still hang on the Behavioral Corner. It's also National Recovery Month, which we've been reminding you of. It's important that we talk about recovery with regard to substance abuse, because as heartbreaking as the disease of addiction almost always is, and the toll it takes is stunning and, again, tragic. The truth is, and it's often overlooked, is that millions and millions of people manage to find their way through this disease, manage it, get their lives back together, the earth under their feet, and go on to lead productive and healthy lives. That's National Recovery Month in September, so we bring people on who we like to refer to as voices in recovery. There is nothing like a satisfied customer, as they say in business, and a first-person testimonial can remind people that, others have been through this and they have managed to make it. That's the case with Becca B. She's with us on the corner. We're grateful to have her. She's going to share her story of substance abuse and now her successful sobriety and the life she has now. Becca, thanks for joining us on the Behavioral Corner. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So let's begin and let people know who you are. I know a little about you. I know you're 29 years old, and I know you have had serious problems with substance abuse. But tell us the backstory of Rebecca. Where are you from, and what was your family like?
So I grew up in Chester County, Pennsylvania. I grew up with both parents in the household and two younger sisters. Currently, I'm 29. My sisters are 27 and 28. Up until about the age of 12, we had, like a white picket fence sort of family, so to say. And at the age of 12, my parents got divorced. My mom moved out with my two sisters. And that's kind of where my story with substance abuse begins.
Wow, that's just a remarkable story. I know your sisters and you were all very, very close in age, very close siblings, and then through no fault of your own, they break up, the Three Musketeers, and you wind up with Dad and your sisters with your mother. It must have been a trauma.
Very traumatic, yes.
Yeah. How did that, if you guys, and of course you guys didn't get to vote on any of this, you were sort of collateral damage here. The girls went off, as you said, to live in another residence that you guys had in Manhattan. I can't think of a different circumstance that they would face. You stay in Chester County. So did you maintain contact with them? Were you still close during that separation?
I can remember very specific periods where I had contact more with my mom because, at the time, I don't think we had smartphones. I was maybe communicating with my sisters here and there, but very limited contact during those years. But I remember specific times throughout my substance use, like reaching out to my mom almost for help or guidance. Mm-hmm. But it was very selective.
Yeah. And the divorce, like most divorces or many divorces, was not achieved easily. It stretched over a long period of time, you were telling me. And your sisters and you reacted to it differently. You told me earlier that the amazing thing when you look at this disease is that it can run through families. We've seen plenty of examples of that, but it can also strike randomly. Your sisters had no trouble with substance abuses, have they?
No, not at all. Nope.
And no. You did. We'll find out about the extent of that. Have you ever wondered why that was?
Yes, I have. I also, I've been almost envious of them at times because,
sure,
they obviously put all of their energy into positive things where I turn to substances. But yeah, I have wondered about that at times. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? We've heard stories of families that grow resentful because they don't understand the behavior of somebody who has this disease. Why are they doing this? They grow resentful, as I said, and angry. I guess it can work the other way as well. If you have siblings and they seem to be okay, there must on some level be a resentment about why didn't they get like this? How come it's me? I certainly understand that jumble of emotions. You say you were often envious of them. I can understand that. When did your substance abuse and under what circumstances did they start?
It's at 12 is when I started using substances.
Take me through that. 12 years old is pretty young. What were you dabbling with at that point?
Yeah, so at the time, so through therapy and recovery, I'm able to look back and understand that my dad was left with a preteen girl, and he reacted in his own way, and I'm able to say today, he did the best he could at that time. But I basically had free reign, and I was doing whatever I wanted, with whoever I wanted, and it started out as drinking. Basically from Friday night to Sunday afternoon, smoking pot, smoking cigarettes. I started smoking cigarettes at age 12. I just got mixed up with a crowd where I remember very specific circumstances from those times, but that is where it all took off, is at age 12.
Yeah. We're going to talk about treatment in a little bit. Was your substance abuse early on a kind of rebellion, or were you medicating? You could not have been a happy kid separated from your sisters and your mom. What do you think was the impetus for you to start that bad behavior? Yeah,
I think there's a few different reasons. Definitely, probably number one is self-medicating. I also had other trauma that I think, I told you previously. I don't think it'd be appropriate to get into it. There was trauma. I was definitely self-medicating, trauma aside from the divorce and the divorce. I think that also the way that my life was once my sisters left was also completely different than how, I had been raised very structured with sports and activities and school and academics and all different types of things and vacations. And now all of that was gone. So this was very new and very exciting. And I think there was some sort of rebellion in there. I think I was looking for attention in all the wrong places. I didn't have my sisters. I didn't have my mom. Anymore. I wasn't doing the positive activities that I had been doing my whole life with sports and other things. And I basically put all my time and energy into hanging out with the wrong people and I liked the effect. I genuinely liked being high and drunk. So,
and you had a group which you had been torn apart from, your sisters and your family. Now at least you had a peer group. Unfortunately, it's the wrong peer group.
Right.
What were the consequences of this with you and your dad? How quickly was he aware of your behavior?
I think he was very naive. I remember specific times where I was getting into a lot of trouble, but as soon as he started to catch on, which is at age 14 is when I went into my first treatment center. It was not just him. It was actually my school that mandated that I went to treatment. That time, I got involved with my first outpatient treatment center. I went to, residential treatment for the first time at age 14.
At 14. What was the principal problem at that time? Was it alcohol or more than alcohol?
Cocaine.
Cocaine at 14. Where were you getting cocaine at 14? How hard was that to get?
I got involved with the wrong friend group when I was 14. I quickly befriended a group of seniors. I had gotten in trouble. I had detention. My dad was supposed to come pick me up after school. He didn't show up. I called one of these friends. They said, my brother works at a construction site nearby at the school. I'll have him come pick you up. He picked me up, and he was dealing drugs at the time. And I got heavily involved in cocaine use at that time. And the school did end up getting involved. They gave me therapy and support and got me into a rehab after work program. But then ultimately I couldn't stop. I was sent to treatment. And then ultimately I ended up going to an alternative high school after coming back and not being able to remain sober. I ended up being locked up from ages 17 to 19 for drug charges.
You mean locked up in what? In a treatment facility or in jail?
No, sir. I went to juvenile prison from ages 17 to 19 on drug charges I caught in Kensington, Philadelphia.
So in the 5-year period from when the divorce and your family is broken up, you went from smoking at 12 and doing marijuana and some alcohol to a full-blown addiction. Was it heroin at that point that got you in trouble with the law?
Yeah. So when I got out of treatment at 14, I went to a treatment facility where I was by far they had an adolescent program, but even though I was still by far the youngest person there, the majority of the girls were talking about heroin. And I left there and I was like, that's what I'm trying next. I want to do that. I got out and I basically stopped going to school. I did stop going to school. I was put in an alternative high school for, it was called Chester County Middle College High School. It was for all the kids in Chester County that had drug problems. They were put into one high school, and that no longer exists either, that high school.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with that school in Chester County, but you say
it doesn't exist.
Yeah, you know what? Because sitting here right now, and this is off the top of my head, and I'm certainly no expert here, but it strikes me as you wonder what the idea behind taking cases out of the mainstream of school who need help, there's no doubt, and placing them all together, whether that's not, in one sense, let's get them over here and warehouse them. They almost take you out of the environment that might help you get better and put you in an environment where everybody's doing the same thing. Was that your experience?
Yeah, and it was actually located at Delaware County Community College's Exton campus. So we were on a college campus. So we were able to take smoke breaks. We were able to leave the campus whenever we want. It was not monitored like a typical high school. There were other students that were there for like severe mental health issues, but I would say like 80% of the kids there were there for drug problems.
Needless to say, that doesn't sound like it would be a conducive place to get.
No, it was not.
To get sober. What was what was going on with your family during this? Was there support? What relationship did you have? I mean, you got in some serious trouble at a young age. What was going on with the family during that?
I can only, speak from my experience, but I think, I can generally say that you don't want help until, help won't help you until you want it. My family had intervened. My dad had paid for very expensive treatment centers during that time. As a juvenile, I couldn't leave, against medical advice or anything. So that wasn't something that happened until I got older. So I would actually have to stay at these facilities. But there were times where, I would convince him to let me leave early. I started going to different states for treatment. I mean, I could go on and on about the measures that my dad did try to take, but I was looking for an outside fix to an internal problem. I was not ready for help. I didn't really want help. And I was very, very damaged. And obviously throughout the drug use and the things I was doing to obtain drugs and all that different stuff, the trauma was just starting to pile on top of each other. And I just wanted to keep self-medicating. Sometimes in treatment, they would try one thing or another, maybe with medication or psychotherapy, and it wasn't fixing this internal problem that I had.
Yeah. And your sisters, not that they automatically ought to have understood, but did they understand that you were in the grip of a disease, or did they think you were the bad seed?
Well, I don't think at the time they knew it was like a disease. Anybody who knew me at that point in time knew that I was really, really struggling. I was constantly going missing. Either I was in treatment or I was totaling cars left and right, some that weren't even mine. The list goes on of everything that was happening. Basically, anyone who came in contact with me knew I had a problem. I don't think my sisters have ever judged me negatively. I don't. They both now understand that it's a disease. I think that no one ever wanted ill will for me or thought, oh God, look at her over there doing this. I think everyone knew I was really hurting. They just wanted to help me, but no one knew how, because I didn't want help. I really didn't at all.
Yeah.
So it was hard. It was hard to be a family member or a friend to me at that point in time, because all I wanted was the next fix. So it was difficult to be around me.
So when you say, you were a full-blown intravenous heroin user, correct?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll get to that a little later, but as bad as that is, it gets worse when fentanyl, the deadly additive to heroin that's hitting the streets in the past couple of years, is introduced to it. We'll talk about that straight ahead, though, here.
At Retreat Behavioral Health, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 and begin your journey today.
All stories of substance abuse and recovery are the same, except they're different. And you're making that case now. Multiple trips in and out of rehab is not uncommon at all, although the wider public, I don't think, understands that. Very often they dismiss it as, look, that doesn't work. How many times were you in treatment, all told?
I don't know. It's over 30. I've never sat down and counted, but I will say a lot of those trips were like I would get either through the detox process and then, get off the taper and step down to like the rehab part of treatment and just leave. A lot of that started happening when I did start using fentanyl because I would go into precipitative withdrawal so terribly because I wouldn't wait long enough to start the detox process with the detox medication. But a lot of those treatment episodes, I left either AWOL or AMA prior to treatment being completed. There were quite a few that I did complete or at least stayed for the majority of the stay. But I want to preface that by saying, I'm only 29. It's not like I did 30 plus 28-day stays. A lot of these were like a couple days here and there in different places.
It's one of the things about frequent trips in and out of rehab that I think that, again, the general public is confused about is that, and you just said it, very often people go into rehab not so much to get clean and sober, but to take a break from always being on the streets or in trouble. It's I hate to say it's like a vacation, but at least it's a way to go in, catch your breath, get out as quick as you can so you can start all over. It sounds like that's what you were doing, right?
Talking about that aspect, as a teenager, most of it was consequences. Most of it was either the legal authorities or school authorities or family, like saying you have to go. But then, so I was sober from 17 to, I believe I was 26 when I relapsed. Maybe 20. Yeah, I think I was 26. So, and when I got out of juvenile prison, I was heavily involved in AA, very heavily involved, and I turned my life completely around. I love AA. I mean, 12-step recovery in general. And then I had another traumatic event happen where I had also had a baby, and I stopped going to meetings as frequently. I stopped contact with my sponsors frequently. And then when this event happened, rather than relying on the 12-step fellowship, I relapsed. So to answer your question, during that time, yes, that was absolutely what was going on. It was to get off the streets. It was to take a break, et cetera.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the turning point, if that's fair to say, the point at which things start to make sense for our guest on the Behavioral Corner. Rebecca B. is who we're talking to, 29-year-old. She's now a single mom. We'll talk about the impact of her pregnancy and her new baby on her sobriety. In this, another story of recovery in September, which is, of course, National Recovery Month.
At Retreat Behavioral Health, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 and begin your journey today.
So let's talk about, because people are baffled by this. You go in all these times. Many times you go in for the wrong reasons. Other times maybe you're a little more serious about it. Looking back now on this journey, which is what it is, that you were on to try to get your life back together, when did it start to make sense to you that what you were doing over here was killing you and you should pay attention when you're in these programs? You remember when that started to happen for you?
Yeah, so I had a ton of psychoeducation in treatment through, I have a college degree in psychology, and, I've had a lot of exposure to 12-step and to different treatment programs. So that was part of the problem, was I wasn't willing to have a new perspective, or I wasn't willing to internalize that I needed to start from scratch and start everything all over again and to get a new experience. But the end of that 2-year run, I was homeless. My daughter was not living with me currently. My daughter's father had passed away from an overdose, so he was not in the picture. So her grandparents were taking care of her. I had lost every penny I had ever had. I was on the streets in Kensington, and the whole left side of my body had gone paralyzed from intravenous drug use. I completely surrendered at that point. I don't know. I a light bulb went off. I was able to have that moment of clarity where I was able to see my life as what it truly was. At that point in time, I reached out to someone and said, I needed help, and I was willing to do absolutely anything to get that help. I went into treatment, and I I was willing to do absolutely anything they said and take any suggestions they had and completely humble myself to the recovery process. And that's what I did at that point.
Yeah, we've heard these stories very, very often. I wish I were capable, or any guest I had were capable of explaining that moment of clarity or that break point where the person suffering from the disease goes, well, this isn't working. I'm going to die if I don't do something else suddenly, as though someone threw a switch on. Successful people who manage to get sober realize that they don't know the answer, so let me listen to somebody else. So that happens for you a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago that you finally got your feet under you and took it seriously?
Yes. So, I mean, my sober date is June 24th of 2019.
So you're going on a little over a year now.
Yeah.
And the baby's with you now?
Yes.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 4.5.
Were you an active intravenous drug user while you were pregnant?
I did not relapse until her dad died, which was 5 days before her first birthday.
Yeah.
I had over 8 years sober at that point.
8 years sober. He overdoses, and that's the relapse. You got yourself together when you were in this relationship and you had this baby. And then it all comes tumbling down after 8 years, which is a real hard stumble. To what extent did you want to get back to that? I mean, did being a mom encourage you in any way to take it seriously?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, I mean, I had actually met my daughter's father in that alternative high school for drug addicts. That's where we met. And we had been together on and off since we were 16 years old. I mean, we had, everything on the outside. We had a, beautiful apartment and 2 cars and great jobs. And we were both in recovery, and then long story short, when she was 6 months old, he relapsed and I told him he had to go. And, I took on pridefully being a single mom. And then once again, 5 days before her first birthday, he died. And when I relapsed, I was not connected to my 12-step family, even though they showed up. I was just mentally disconnected. It triggered a ton of trauma. I was terrified. And I never thought I wouldn't be able to stop because I had forgotten. I mean, that's part of the problem is I thought, that I would just use to feel better and then I'd be okay. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's not what happened. But I wanted to stop every single day that I was using for my daughter, but not really for myself. I mean, and it wasn't until I surrendered and realized I have to put myself in my recovery first to be a mother to my daughter that it all kind of came together and clicked. First of all, I wasn't ready for fentanyl. I mean, I had been a heroin user and I'd go to detox and jump right back. I was not ready for what was about to happen when I picked up fentanyl.
Yeah.
You never think when you pick up, hey, I'm about to hand over my apartment and my car and every piece of money that I've ever earned and my job and my child, and I'm just going to all hand it over to this bag of dope. That isn't what was going through my head at all, but that's ultimately what happened.
But that's what was going on. You caught a very, very fortunate break in that you, as you say, weren't ready for fentanyl, because no one's ready for fentanyl, but the people who don't realize it in time, as we know, tragically die. So in that regard, I guess you dodged a major bullet. So, Becca, your story, I mean, for people who don't understand this disease or have never seen it in their life or families, your story is unbelievable. People are sitting going, how in the world could you survive those, multiple traumas that you've had to become a successful mom now and sober for over a year? So life is good now, better than it was, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Sure is. Yeah.
So, but you had 8 years of sober, and I don't mean this in any kind of provocative way, but what's it like for you on a day-to-day basis with regard to cravings or thoughts that might lead you down the wrong road? Are they a problem for you?
Honestly, I mean, when I got sober this time, I was done. Which isn't something that I had thought I was done a whole bunch of other times, during those 2 years, but I genuinely was not, obviously, because I wasn't ready to surrender and do anything. And I don't experience cravings, but I am fully aware that they can sneak up and be, when they do come, that they're extremely powerful and that you need to be prepared, because that's what had happened to me previously. But I mean, I stay on top of my program. I mean, I think if you work a daily program of recovery and you have gratitude and you have good, sober people in your life, that, you know, you just take it day by day. And hopefully be able to live a life without cravings the way I do.
Yeah.
You know, are there times where, of course, you're like, oh, like stressful and I don't want to feel this way? Yes, but like I recognize that fentanyl is not the end. I mean, I am unable to look at my daughter now and like even let that be an option.
Yeah, well, that's, you know what, there's a blessing for sure. Becca B., thank you so much for coming on. You know, I don't expect people in your situation with your story to sit here and tell other people what they have to do. I know it's beneficial for others who are in crisis now, or family members who have other people that are struggling, to hear this, because it can be done. As I said, millions of people are living in long-term successful sobriety. So, Becca, thanks so much. Continued success. What's the baby's name?
My daughter's name is Ava.
Oh, lovely name. Love it.
Thank you.
Give her a hug. She's your lifeline. Thanks so much for spending time with us here on the corner and sharing that story.
I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
You take care. And the rest of you as well. Too. See you back on the corner sometime real soon. That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.